we're going to start with it. You saw the thumbnail. There was a memo that Axios reported on yesterday that said, allegedly coming from the DOJ, and I found it curious that the document wasn't signed, that said, Epstein list? No Epstein list. Epstein clients? There were no Epstein clients. Epstein blackmail? There was no Epstein blackmail. Let me bring up the Axios article because we want to go right to the source before we question whether or not we were caught repeating the cycle of fake news. This is what Axios reported yesterday, 18 hours ago. I waited a little bit. I could not believe that the memo that they're reporting was not signed by Pam Bondi herself. Maybe she can't sign the document because of the public statements she made about the Epstein files being on her desk. Set that aside. By this morning, the fact that the DOJ hadn't denied this, the fact that the document is apparently on the DOJ website eliminates all doubt. Axios, exclusive DOJ FBI conclude Epstein had no, quote, client list, end quote, died by suicide. I'll take things I don't believe for 800, Alex, and I don't care if anybody thinks I'm a crazy conspiracy theorist. I might be able to be convinced, or I might be able to believe that Epstein, by the letter of semantics, took his own life. Yes, he was able to hang himself because he was provided extra bed sheets and his cellmate was removed. Yes, he was able to kill himself. The cameras were turned off. The security guards were not there. And he was taken off suicide watch 2 weeks earlier despite having attempted suicide about a month earlier. Yeah, I'll believe that. And if you tell me that's not a conspiracy, I will tell you to go suck a lemon. President Trump's Justice Department and FBI have concluded they have no evidence that convicted sex offender and disgraced financier Jeffrey Epstein blackmailed powerful figures, kept a, quote, client list, or was murdered, according to a memo detailing the findings obtained by Axios. The administration is releasing a video in both raw and, quote, enhanced versions that it says indicates no one entered the area of the Manhattan prison where Epstein was held at the night before he died in 2019. Do people think we're stupid? Here's a video showing you that absolutely no one entered the quarters where Jeffrey Epstein was being held the night he committed suicide. There you have it, people. Excuse me. Is it not suspicious that no one entered the quarters to make sure that Jeffrey Epstein was alive, well, and not killing himself? No one entered the quarters. All right. Care to explain how that happens? I've got follow-up questions, if I may. I don't know who I would ask them to. Pam Bondi? Mrs. Pam Bondi, what is the tour rate of security guards to make sure that they are properly surveilling an inmate who was on suicide watch 2 weeks earlier? No one was there. No one was within 500 yards of Epstein. Okay, thanks. That's a conspiracy. And it goes on. Let's keep going on with this because it'll blow your freaking mind. The video supports a medical examiner's finding that Epstein died by suicide, the 2-page memo claims. All right, does it contradict the finding of another expert who said that Epstein had broken bones in his neck here, lower down, consistent with strangulation, and not higher up, which would have been consistent with hanging? All right, maybe in some way he fell or rotated upside down so that the rope was pulling upwards like this and broke. It's possible. It's possible. It's also possible, I guess, technically that the moon is made of Swiss cheese, maybe not Swiss cheese. Why it matters? Why it matters? Well, you only need to ask some very famous podcasters of a year ago to never give up on the Epstein file, whether or not he took his own life by his own hands because of a set of circumstances that was facilitated by the conspiracy. Never let up on this file because it goes deeper than anyone can possibly imagine. No blackmail, no client list, no nothing. Move on. Thank you very much. Well, I'm sorry, Pam Bondi, when you said you had files on your desk, what was it? Just videos of Epstein with kids? Thousands of hours of videos of Epstein with kids. Nobody else. When they went and they raided his house and they had all those recordings that the FBI seized, that was only of Epstein. The network of camera systems that he had in his Manhattan apartment off his island in St. Kitts. Well, not St. Kitts. Was it St. Kitts? No, St. Kitts I think is somewhere else. Whatever. Pleasure Island, Lolita Express, Jeffrey's Island. That network of cameras set up in every room in the house only for Epstein. So they put out this memo and someone made me a little bit nervous. Like, that's Axios reporting that. That's garbage. You might be partaking in the laundering of disinformation. And I got a little nervous. But I've got confirmation it's an official memo. But this is the memo, by the way. Doesn't seem to be dated unless they're missing a cover page, and doesn't seem to be signed unless they're missing a signature page. Let's read it, shall we? From the U.S. Department of Justice, Federal Bureau of Investigation. Who's the head of that department? I know Barnes gives Bongino a hard time, and I think it's unfair to give Bongino a hard time because at this point in time, I'm convinced that Bongino is not calling the shots. I'm actually convinced that Bongino is Mark Wahlberg out of the other guys. He's a peacock that wants to fly, and he's got Michael Keaton that won't let him fly. And that Michael Keaton, I'm not even sure it's Kash Patel. It might be Pam Bondi. And I don't know if Bondi's useless, a useless tool, and I don't mean tool in the insulting way, but like an actual tool, political tool for whomever, or she's just utterly incompetent and has no idea what the hell is going on, and she can't sign this memo because she's come out on record multiple times to say that they'd be releasing the Epstein files only to have Bindergate, that she's got the files on her desk, and that was 3 months ago, and now putting out an undated, unsigned memo that reads as follows. As part of our commitment to transparency, first, rule of transparency, let us know who drafted the memo. Let us know who's signing off on this memo. Department of Justice and FBI investigation have conducted exhaustive review of investigative holdings related to Jeffrey Epstein. To ensure that the review was thorough, the FBI conducted digital searches of its databases, hard drives, network drives, as well as physical searches of squad areas, locked cabinets, desks, yada, yada, yada. These searches uncovered a significant amount of material, including more than 300 gigabytes of data and physical evidence. May I ask the obvious question? How the hell do you know that you had the entire file? You inherited the fruits of a poisonous tree of a weaponized criminal FBI, DOJ under the Biden administration. How the hell do you know what you don't have in that file? Am I going crazy, or do I remember the SDNY FBI office talk about them removing files from the SDNY office before Kash Patel could get in there? Pull that up. Maybe gaslighting, making me think I'm going crazy like I didn't see that at the time. The files relating to Epstein include a large volume of images of Epstein, images of videos, and images of illegal child sex abuse material and other pornography. Team agents, analysts, attorneys, privacy, liberty, yada, 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 comb through the documentary evidence with the aim of providing as much information as possible to the public while simultaneously protecting victims. Okay, we appreciate that. Much of the material is subject to court order sealing. Only a fraction of this material would have been aired publicly had Epstein gone to trial, as the seal served only to protect victims and did not expose any additional third parties to allegations of illegal wrongdoing. Am I crazy, or are we forgetting about Prince Andrew? Oh, I'm sorry. That's right. Virginia Giuffre took her own life in the meantime. Bondi comes out, says we've got the files on my desk. Delay. Virginia Giuffre, the last living meaningful witness in all of this, public, who had gone public, dies by suicide allegedly. And now they say no victims would have implicated any other third party. That's what Kash Patel said on Joe Rogan. If we had any of the information, we'd indict other people. They expect us to swallow this? Tell a lie so big, no person could reasonably think any sane person would make a lie so big, and eventually people will believe it? Horse crap. Through this review, we found no basis to revisit the disclosure of those materials and will not permit the release of child pornography. That is fine. Nobody wants the child pornography. Hiding behind we're not giving the world what nobody wants is the cheapest way of trying to almost shame anybody or humiliate anybody who says exposure is not the exposure to the CP. The exposure is Prince Andrew, credibly accused of badness. Is he not another party that would be implicated in this? There's no videos of him. There's one photograph of him. Photograph of Bill Clinton getting a deep tissue massage. Listen to this. This is the highlighted part. This systematic review revealed no incriminating, quote, client list. Notice the verbiage here. You want to be a sneaky deaky little lawyer? I can play sneaky deaky lawyer too. I played one for 13 years. No incriminating client list? Is that to suggest there's a client list that's not incriminating? No incriminating, quote, client list, end quote. So there's an incriminating list of something. There's an incriminating set of names, but it's not a client list as defined by whatever this quotation means. You could weasel out of a lot of things. Epstein acted alone in sex trafficking for years, for 30 years, only done for himself. The island, only done for his pleasure. How he got his billions of dollars or hundreds of millions from Wex, whatever the person's name is. Prince Andrew, credibly accused? No, totally irrelevant. We're not looking at anything. The file we got from the weaponized criminal DOJ of prior administration, good to go. Kash Patel just came out and literally said, we found documentation and information that they were trying to hide from us. And we found it in a room that they didn't think we would find. Can they positively confirm that no evidence was destroyed by a prior administration after having, through Pam Bondi, come out and said publicly, we got it. We have it on my desk. I'll be revealing it shortly. We did not uncover evidence that could predicate an investigation against uncharged third parties. Consistent with prior disclosures, no, it's not. This review confirmed that Epstein harmed over 1,000 victims. Each suffered unique trauma. Sensitive information relating to these victims is intertwined throughout the materials. This includes specific details such as names, yada, yada, yada. One of our highest priorities is combating child exploitation and bringing justice to victims. Perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein serves neither of those ends. Is this Pam Bondi throwing Kash Patel and Dan Bongino under the bus? Let me be very, very specific and unequivocal. I don't believe that Dan Bongino was wrong about anything he said prior to becoming deputy director of the FBI. I don't believe that Kash Patel was wrong in what he said about the Epstein files before he became director of the FBI. Whoever wrote that line, perpetuating unfounded theories about Epstein, serves neither of those ends. Whoever wrote that is trying to discredit Dan Bongino and Kash Patel. It's not something that Dan Bongino and Kash Patel could have or would have written themselves. To that end, while we have labored to provide the public with maximum information regarding Epstein and ensured Third, examination of any evidence in the government's possession. Well, there's a big caveat. In the government's possession. How about intelligence possession? How about foreign intelligence possession? It is the determination of the DOJ and the FBI that no further disclosure would be appropriate or warranted. You remember that time when they promised disclosure? Yeah, they're on my desk. Yeah, they're not coming. Yep, there is no list. After a thorough investigation, FBI investigators concluded Jeffrey Epstein committed suicide in a cell. Okay, we care about that. The autopsy, yada, yada. The conclusion that Epstein died by suicide is further supported by video footage from this common area of the special housing unit, the SHU, where Epstein was housed at the time of his death. As DOJ's Inspector General explained in 2023. Who was the DOJ Inspector in 2023? Hold on. Michael Horowitz. Well, I don't know enough about that to cast aspersions, so I'll put that on pause and look into that after the show. Anyone entering or attempting to enter the tier where Epstein's cell was located from the SHU common area would have been captured by this footage. The FBI's independent review confirmed that from the time Epstein was locked in the cell around 10:40 until 6:30 a.m. the next morning, nobody entered any of the tiers of the cell. Is that normal? How stupid does anyone who wrote this have to think that we are? Was it normal that a man who was on suicide watch would have had nobody enter the cell to make sure that he was okay between 10:40 at night and 6:30 the next morning? 10, 11, 12, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. That's 8 hours. I'm no prison expert. Security guards at the Metropolitan, which are federal, are tasked with conducting variant types of inmate. This is from AI, so there are formal counts often conducted 2 to 3 times a day. Bed book counts, in addition, routine random pat searches, yada, yada, yada. I'll find out what the answer to that question is. Maybe I'm making a whole hell of a lot of hay out of nothing. Sorry, let me get that back in here so that we can read it. Yep, they confirmed that no one was in, around, or entering the cell for 8 solid hours. No conspiracy there, people. Go on with your day. During this review, the FBI enhanced the relevant footage, yada, yada. That's the memo. And just remember, people, never let up on the Epstein file. Epstein files are on my desk. There are no Epstein files. Epstein killed himself. There's no client list or blackmail material. Source, an unsigned memo from the DOJ. White-in Pam Bondi. Put her name and signature on this document. Who believes this? I put out a poll, by the way, on Twitter, just asking who believes this. What do you think the results were? Let me go check what the results are now. And this is the ultimate irony. Doesn't even matter if it is true, in the unlikely event that it's true. The fact that, let me see what the answer, 97.2% of the respondents do not believe this DOJ memo is a problem. You suspect. Do you believe the DOJ when it tells you that Epstein killed himself, that there was no incriminating client list, and that there was no blackmail material? Yes. 2.7%. No, 97.3%. I've only got 6,800. I don't get very many. Then someone accuses me of putting up a bogus. That's a bogus question because you're actually asking 2 radically different questions and trying to lump them together as though they're one. To which I said, they're literally the conclusions of one and the same memo from the DOJ. So you're wrong. So that's the news of the day, people. Who's coming to DC this week? I don't know what's going on in DC this week. Alan Ribbs. I cannot get over it. But whoever wrote that memo did so to discredit and repudiate the careers of Bongino as a podcast. Podcast is such a demeaning way of, as an analyst, and Kash Patel as an author. What did Kash Patel, what did he say about, yes, I believe it's right here. And he was on the Benny Johnson show. Is it right? I can't see too good, Bill.
You know, it's the same thing with Epstein's list. It's like, what the hell are these Republicans doing? Oh, I saw you give out the list.
I saw you make news this morning about that. I got to get to that. Yep. You say that the FBI has Epstein's list. They're sitting on it. That doesn't seem like something you should do. You're protecting the world's foremost predator. That seems like an evil thing to do, regardless of who may be embarrassed in the release of that list. Why is the FBI protecting the greatest pederast, the largest scale pederast in human history?
Simple, because of who's on that list. You don't think that Bill Gates is lobbying Congress night and day to prevent the disclosure of that list? And why is it that the Senate, you know, and good for Senator Blackburn to try to get it out, but then Dick Durbin comes over the top and says, no, we're not going to release the names. I don't care about the list itself, but he released the names, right? What the hell are the House Republicans doing? They have the majority. You can't get the list? You're going to accept Dick Durbin's word, or whoever that guy is, as to who is on that list and who isn't, and that it can and can't be released? Put on your big boy pants and let us know who the pedophiles are. We have an election coming up, and we need to adjudicate this matter at the polls. God knows the FBI and DOJ aren't going to do anything. But how are you going to reward the FBI with a new headquarters building after their illegal surveillance on Donald Trump continues with a reauthorization of FISA, and we can't even get basic documents out? This is why America hates Congress. And this is why I'm tired of the Republican majority saying they're going to get the job done and failing.
Holy Shiat people. Can you appreciate that's Kash Patel, the current director of the FBI, accusing Republicans of not putting on their big boy pants when they're in the majority to release the Epstein list. He's the director of the FBI. I'm telling you this. I see some people in the chat saying Kash is compromised. Either his wings are clipped or his wings are being broken, because whoever drafted that memo, I have now talked myself into it. They drafted that memo specifically to discredit and humiliate Kash Patel and Dan Bongino. There's no other reason for which you would even have to add that sentence into the memo to entertain these theories. It doesn't further any interests of justice or truth. That basically turns Kash Patel into a laughingstock for what he has publicly and vocally said compared to what is now coming out of the FBI and the DOJ. We'll never know, therefore I can never be proven wrong. But I'll say this, I know Barnes has been going hard on Bongino. I will not repeat the nicknames for Bongino, but that in that interview with Bartiromo and the subsequent interviews, my sincere feeling is that wings are being clipped, peacocks are not being allowed to fly, and the whatever deep state apparatus. Can you imagine what greater revenge would there be on people who are out there exposing the deep state than publicly humiliating and discrediting them for the rest of their lives? Kash Patel went from writing American Gangster, I know where all the skeletons are hidden, Republicans are a bunch of feckless cowards, they have the majority, they're not releasing the names on that list. He went from that to a year later. When was that interview from? Let me just see when that was from originally. Well, that was posted today, but the interview, I forget when it was. Oh, it's from Benny Johnson. 2023. It was from December 19, 2023. A year and a half later. Yes, I love Big Brother is what they got Kash Patel to say. Holy sweet merciful heck. I'm curious to know what everybody thinks about that. But let me just go to Joe Mazq in our vivabarneslaw.locals.com community. Says, wait, hold up. Something right. Wait, remember when Biden decided not to run again? When it was announced, there was no signature. Biden never said on video, what if something similar just happened? The memo is not signed. It's not dated. What if it's happening again? Well, those are two wildly different circumstances in that Biden was demented, and some say that he wouldn't have voluntarily withdrawn from the race. First sign of dementia is aggressiveness. And so they did it for him, and then he couldn't back out afterwards. I did have that idea that, when someone suggested that this memo might have been a fake leak, or leaked, it'll be like the same thing that happened with the intelligence after the Iran strikes. Like a disgruntled member of the FBI internally decides to leak a low confidence memo, whatever, or draft a memo in such a way to be, wildly inflammatory and piss people off predictably. And then the FBI has to come out and say, no, that was written by some staff. It was accidentally leaked. Okay. If the FBI DOJ does that, it means the content of the memo is inaccurate. And I think a lot of people would be very happy to hear that. We are now damn near 24 hours after that article was leaked or written. And but let me just say, I'm fairly certain it's on the DOJ's website, if I'm not mistaken. It's an authentic memo. So that I believe now is no longer DOJ Memo. Now that I'm curious about this, here, this is the memo. And I'll give everybody the link to the website, or the link. It's legit. It can confirm it's legit. So it's just amazing. Who can sign off on this memo? It can't be Kash Patel. Can't be Dan Bongino because of things they've said previously. Can't be Pam Bondi because of things she said recently. Nobody can sign off on that memo. But go on with your day, people. No client list, no blackmail material, and Epstein killed himself. And if you deny that, you're a crazy conspiracy theorist.